Welcome to the Undisputed podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Taft. This podcast is the full show from today's episode of Undisputed from start to finish. We've got a busy slate, so skip Shannon. Let's get to it.
Good morning. It's time for Undisputed. It's time for us to do what we do every single weekday morning here on Fox Sports 1. And that is to delve into and debate the hottest sports issues of the day as you do with your friends and relatives. And we hope you're watching today from home. It is time for me to introduce my debate partner. You probably know him. His name is Shannon Sharpe. You probably know he's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You probably know by now he's up in his palatial estate up in Bel Air, while I am way down here in the flats in what's called West Los Angeles. I'm about a 2-minute drive from the Fox studios, and that's where Shannon and I hope to be back in studio sooner than later. But today, we're the home edition of Undisputed, and today I say hello to, once again, Shannon Sharpe.
Hey, Skip, how you doing today?
Probably good, better
Skip.
than you, because I love... Do you feel real good? Because I love what we're about to get into, because some of our topics today over the next 2 hours are going to be this guy, I forget what his name is. He wore number 23 originally, and he just got voted the greatest college basketball player ever, as well as we already know, he's the GOAT of all time in the NBA. We're also going to be talking about, and Shannon's going to love this one, LeBron allegedly improving his free throw shooting. And it's about damn time he did that, as LeBron once said after he won his first ring. We're also, and I cannot wait for this one, we are going to talk about Terrell Owens being chosen as the best player ever to wear number 81, that he will always represent, according to The Athletic, the number 81 in the National Football League. Mm-hmm. I got a big problem with that. And I got an even bigger problem with LeVar Ball actually making it even harder on his oldest son to be a success in New Orleans. So LeVar almost ruined him in LA and now in New Orleans. I cannot wait to get into that. But right now, Mr. Sharpe, I can't wait to get into our first topic, which is the NFL owners, as predicted, have approved expanded playoffs in EuroLeague, the National Football League, up to 14 playoff teams now with one extra wild card in each conference. You're going to give that a thumbs up or a thumbs down, Mr. Sharpe?
Skip, I get it. And I don't even really understand why the owners voted, because you knew they were going to basically approve this unanimously. Skip, the thing that made the NFL playoffs so unique and so elite is that 50% of your teams did not make the playoffs, like they do in basketball, like they do in hockey. Skip, the thing that makes something sacred is the scarcity of it. If you notice, we're dealing with this COVID-19. If you notice, people are buying up toilet paper and paper towels. Why? Because it's scarce. Things that there's abundance of, they're not wiping that up. Well, NFL playoff spots, there was scarcity. There were only 6 on one conference, 6 on the other. Basically, you had to play your way in. Now there's extra. Now I understand why you like it, because it increases the opportunity of your Cowboys making the playoffs. That's why you love it. But Skip, you know when there's only 6 spots that are available and there are 16 teams per conference, every game matters. Skip, teams didn't play well. Now there's only one bye week, so we got to play extra hard. Skip, teams were playing hard because they wanted those buys, the first and second seed, they wanted those buys. But they were also playing hard, Skip, because they knew there's only 6 spots. Skip, there's a reason. Skip, I love American-made cars, but they mass produce them. That's why they don't cost as much as a Ferrari. Now, the Ford GT, the 40, it cost as much as a Ferrari. Why? Because they didn't mass produce it, because there wasn't an abundance of them. Anything there's an abundance of, Skip, who wants that? Skip, what makes us unique as humans? We want what everybody can't have. It doesn't matter. That's what we want. In the playoffs, it was special. Eventually, you know what's going to happen, Skip. It's 7 now. Next CBA, it'll be 8. And eventually it'll be basically you have 10 teams per conference going to the playoffs because the owners can't help themselves. They're never going to pass up an opportunity to get an extra buck. Skip, I get it. Skip, the money's there. You got to try to find new revenue streams. But I just wish they hadn't have gone this route. There's other ways you can generate revenue. Maybe you have to take more games overseas. Maybe you have to come up with new digital services. But Skip, another playoff, and Skip, for the first time, I wanted to hear what some of the other. Started reading about now teams are going to play harder. Skip, are you going to play harder because you know there are more more spots available, or were you going to play harder when you knew there were fewer spots available? Let that sink in. Come on, Skip. That's the thing. I don't like it. I'm not going to sit here and say that I do like it. It's more NFL football, yada, yada, yada. No, I don't like it. I like the scarcity of it. I like teams knowing if we don't play our best, every game's matter. It's not like basketball, Skip. We got a spot sewn up and guys start resting. That's not how it is in the NFL. You have to play basically 14, 15 weeks. Who cares, Skip, if Lamar Jackson didn't play one game? Stop. It wasn't going to change anything anyway. Skip, if they had the number 1 seed sold up by week 17, you think they still not going to play their guys? Some teams are going to play their guys. Some teams are going to rest their guys. That extra playoff spot, I don't believe it's changing anything. Teams would have played harder knowing it was 6 as opposed to 7.
So, in a rarity here on Undisputed, you actually made a whole bunch of very good points about this. But after I slept on it, as much as I agree with many of your premises that you just made, I still barely like this new change, and I'll tell you why. Because I love the fact that there's now only one bye per conference. I love the fact that there's a supreme premium now put on winning the conference, because only one team on each side of the Super Bowl bracket will get a whole week off. And as you know from experience, the week off is flat out gold in the National Football League at that point in a season. It's a supreme advantage. And now, instead of 2 teams getting it and kind of watering that down, you've put the supreme premium on winning the conference and winning the bye week. So I like the fact that everybody's going to go hell-bent out to try to win the 1 week off that nobody else in the whole conference on your side of the bracket is going to get. So I really appreciate that. And again, I don't think that was the point of all this. It's actually just the sort of accidental result of all this. But I do love it. And yet I've always been with you. I didn't want to see my NFL playoffs watered down in any way, but I'll take this as an offset of the watering down to give this a slight edge to have only one bye week versus adding only one playoff team as a wild card. So Shannon, just for perspective, so everybody can grasp the overall context, that's your favorite word here on the show, of this. Okay, so now 14 of 32 NFL teams will make the playoffs. That's 44%. So let's look at the NBA. We both love the NBA. We're missing the NBA dearly right here, right now. They have 16 playoff teams out of only 30 overall teams. Well, that's 53% versus the 44 in the NFL, 53 to 44. So that's still advantage NFL. And then we look at the NHL. We don't talk about the NHL much here on Undisputed, but they have 16 teams out of 31 total. So they're actually 52%, which is just 1% lower than the NBA, 53 to 52. Mm-hmm. But still, the NHL at 52 is quite a bit higher than the 44% of the NFL. So I don't know, like it's come one, come all into the playoffs in the NFL yet. It's not quite as bad as the NBA first and the NHL second. Now, if you want to talk Major League Baseball, you got me, because there's still only 10 out of 30 teams. Well, that's way down at 33% of their teams. So only 10 of 30 can make the playoffs. And remember, if you go back to only 2012 and before, they had only 8 teams out of 30 making the playoffs, which was only 27%. So the premium on making the playoffs belongs to baseball way over football and basketball and hockey. So just on perspective.
Yeah,
but I do appreciate the fact that there's only one bye week now.
Well, the thing is, Skip, my first year, the year I was drafted was the year they changed it. They instituted to 6 teams because prior to that it was 5. And Skip, for me, is that well, then why even have a bye week? Why you need a bye week? NBA doesn't have a bye week. They got all their teams. It's 1 versus 8, yada, yada, yada. 2, 7, 3, 6, 4, 5. Baseball. So why do you need a bye week? What's the importance of the bye week? You want to get more teams in? Why you need a bye week? You play football, right?
Okay, but help me out. Is it not great incentive to win your conference and get a week off?
Well, Skip, sometimes I really think it's overrated. It all depends on how well you're playing at the time. Now, I've been the number 1 seed twice. I've only advanced once. 96, we had the number 1 seed, 13-3. We lost in the divisional. 98, we had the number 1 seed. We are 14-2. We won it. But the other times that I won the Super Bowl, I went 3-0. We were wild cards. And think about this.
Okay.
Look at how did that work out for the Ravens last year?
Yeah. Well, remember, I criticized John Harbaugh right here on the show when he did it, but he didn't play his starters for that last week before the last week. Remember, like before the week off, he didn't play his starters. So it was effectively 3 weeks before they played a football game, and it was rust overcame rest. And they were just rusty, and they weren't ready for a hot Tennessee team that had played its way right into the playoffs and played hot. So I got it. But you know, and I know more often than not. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, but why was Tennessee hot? Because every game was a playoff game for them. Because they know there were only 6 spots. So now, in order for us to get that last spot, we've got to play our tails off from here out, or we're not going to make the playoffs. And that's what happened because of the scarcity of it. We only have 6. Now we got 7. Now teams like your Cowboys, 8-8. Guess where they get to be, Skip? The playoffs shouldn't be for mediocrity. First of all, I don't even like teams making, Skip. There are times, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Seattle Seahawks made the playoffs one year, Skip, at 8-7-1.
They did.
Come on, man. Come on.
Okay.
Now you get 8. You get 8-8. You're gonna be in the playoffs.
Okay. Well, that's not a given, but remember, there have been 9, 10-6 teams that did not make the playoffs, and that does not feel right to me. And under this new format, 8 of those 9 would have made the playoffs. Only one, it was a Tampa Bay team, I think, from whatever it was, 2010 maybe, that went 10-6 and still would not have made the playoffs in the new format. So
Skip, you remember what the Patriots went 11-5 and didn't make it.
They did.
You remember when Tom Brady got hurt? They went 11-5 and didn't make the playoffs.
Oh, okay, but there are going to be some aberrations. There are going to be some 8-8 teams that are going to make it, like we've had in some days before. And I just don't. I'm not losing my mind about it. I don't think it's going to ruin football that we now have a 7th seed on each side. I don't know. I think it's going to be okay, and I will value that there's only one bye week team. And maybe, like you said, maybe it'll hurt the bye week team. But again, I still think that's a big advantage for one team on each side to get a whole week off to rest and recover.
Well, Skip, I agree with you. I'm not losing any sleep. As a matter of fact, I had one of my best night's sleeps in a very long time. So I'm not going to lose any sleep over it, Skip.
Really?
But when I look at it, I just understand. Yeah, I did. But I understand, Skip, how special those playoffs might. Think about it. Only before they instituted this change, only 44% of the teams could make the playoffs. boy, Skip, you better come out fighting, scratching, clawing, by hook or crook, whatever you possibly can, because you know, and that's why, Skip, you got to get up to you try to get up to the great starts because you can't afford to give up so much ground. Yeah, Usain Bolt had great closing speed, but he couldn't be 10 yards behind at the start, or he wasn't going to catch up. Now you got, well, if I don't get the top seed, I could possibly get the 7th seed. Man, stop. No, make them play. I want you to play your way into the playoffs. That's how it's supposed to be.
Okay.
And now, Skip, now you're about to change all.
Okay. Yeah, no, I got it. But I don't want to let this topic go before we make one big overview point here. Remember, it was up to the players to stop this. You used to be a player, but you no longer obviously have a vote on the CBA, as we just saw the players ratify the CBA. But I just read before the show today, Brian Bulaga, who's now obviously a Los Angeles Charger coming from the Green Bay Packers, and has always been very actively involved in CBA issues. And he pointed out something I did not know, that 22% of today's NFL players abstained from the CBA vote. That 22% didn't cast a vote, yes or no. 22%.
Right.
That's outrageously wrong. So remember, it barely passed by 90 votes. So you're telling me that a whole lot of people, a lot of players, rank and file players, just opted not to even cast a vote in the first place. Well, then don't come crying to me about they're adding extra games on us and they're going to add an extra regular season game in the next couple of years. Well, you gave them the right, and 22% of your constituency gave them the right without even casting a vote. So I know we're going to get a vocal minority crying about this and that, but now we've got 10 years of the same CBA. And as I always tell you as a fan, that's fine by me because we got labor peace for 10 years. But I need you to respond to 22% of the players didn't even vote on this CBA.
Skip, it's very disappointing. I thought they would have learned from 2016 by not voting what happens, the ramifications that come along with not voting, abstaining, staying away. And plus the fact, Skip, they put together, the NFL had 456 pages. Skip, I can honestly say I don't believe I've read 456 pages of anything in my entire life, let alone give me a month, let alone give me 2 weeks to try to read over all that. Look, and you're right, Skip. This is what, Skip, when you have a few that says, okay, I'm going to vote and I'm going to vote yay. And you have 22% that says, I'm not going to vote at all, yay or nay. Well, you got to, whatever happens, good, bad, or indifferent, shut your mouth because you had an opportunity to put a stop to it and you didn't. Skip, see, and what they're looking at is that, and Skip, I follow politics a lot better, more than you do, is that what they're trying to say is that you're going to get this trickle-down effect. No, you're not. The 1%ers. See, the guys that make $600,000 will make $700,000. The guys that make $40 million will make $50 million. So what happens is the 1%ers will get a deluge on top of their head. The guys that at the bottom will get one raindrop and says, well, I did feel a little water. No, you didn't. Stop this. But this is what we are now, Skip. There's nothing I saw where Eric Reed is trying to go back and have the CBA invalidated because he said they added some things to it after they had taken the vote. Now, Skip, I don't know anything about that. I mean, it could be true. It couldn't be true. Maybe he's trying to get it invalidated because some of the things that's in there, he's like, guys, you don't understand what you voted for. And guys that didn't vote, well, you have no choice. You know, you're at the mercy of whatever goes on. But Skip, 22%, it shows that the seriousness was not given this document. It shows in 2016 the seriousness was not given. And so everybody else that did vote or maybe didn't vote for a particular side, you got to bear the consequences of the people that did vote and have their vote counted. Well, players, you didn't vote, so you got to bear the consequences of the percentage that did vote and they voted in favor of this. That's just the way, that's what happens, Skip, in a democracy. You get an opportunity to vote, you choose not to, Whatever happens, happens.
Man, you are hot today. I can see what happens when you get a real good night's sleep. You're just on fire. You're actually just a fountain of information and wisdom.
No mercy.
Guess who was voted by fans in an ESPN poll as the greatest college basketball player ever? And guess who crushed Larry Bird in the finals by getting 71% of the vote? Guess who is obviously Michael Jeffrey Jordan. Greatest college player, greatest pro player. And by the way, on the way to the finals, Michael Jordan crushed in order in head-to-head matchups Nancy Lieberman, Tim Duncan, David Robinson, Steph Curry, Magic Johnson, and of course, Larry Bird. Whoa, what a tour de force. Shannon Sharpe, what is your reaction to this development?
Skip, I love Michael Jordan. I'm probably partially responsible for him being a billionaire with all those shoes that I purchased over the years. But Skip, you know he's not the best collegiate player of all time. Even Magic Johnson, the great Magic Johnson, said, one Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Skip, how do you get better? Then you play 3 years of college ball. You win the national championship all 3 years. You National Player of the Year all 3 years. Your most outstanding player all 3 years of those finals. And you go 88-2 and you lost both of those games by 2 points. How do you get better than that? Skip, come on. They changed the rules. Kareem was so dominant, they said, you can't dunk anymore. Kareem says, okay, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to come up with a shot that nobody's going to be able to ever replicate again, and it's going to be the most unstoppable shot in NBA history. The sky hook. And he perfected it. We see guys throw it occasionally, but nobody can throw it like Kareem. Nobody can throw it with the consistency, with the distance that I think I might have saw him maybe 1 or 2 times shoot from the outside, Skip, a conventional shot like he shot from the free throw line. But other than that, everything else was the sky hook. Skip, I want to ask you a question. Of the people that voted in this, how many people you think saw Larry Bird play? Now, Larry Bird last played in college in 1979, which was 41 years ago. I remember it because I was 10. I was about to be 11 years of age. So I remember it. So the people that vote, how many? So basically, you had to be at least, I'm going to say, between the ages of 48 and 50, 52, 53 to truly remember Larry Bird. How many people between that age you think got on Twitter and IG and voted? Exactly.
Millions.
Skip, do you realize that? Stop it. Do you realize that Larry Bird averaged 30 and 13 in college? He's one of 3 players, Elvin Hayes, Larry Bird, and Elgin Baylor. Kareem and Wilt didn't average enough. Wilt Chamberlain was 29 and 18. Kareem was 26 and 15, so they didn't have enough points. But I'm thinking Wilt was 29 and 18. But Skip, stop this. I said yesterday that Michael wasn't a great player. Mike was a great college player. He was just not the greatest college player. I'm not taking him over Kareem. Skip, you know Kristen Leitner had a better college career than Michael Jordan. There were some other players that had greater college careers. But Skip, you can't, like I said, it's kind of like critiquing Tom Brady. You cannot critique him without mentioning and knowing what he's already done. So if you critique 2019, but he's 6-3 in Super Bowls, and he has 31 postseason playoff wins. So Skip, it's hard to get past that. Skip, it's hard to get past that logo. It's hard to get past that shoe. It's hard to get past what he's been able to do once he left college. Skip, you can't be the greatest college player and you only win 1 national title, one national player of the year. When you got guys that's done that twice and stayed all 4 years, no, congratulations, but you, Skip, they need to stop this now.
Okay. Once again, you're hot today and you're making some very good points. But again, as usual, you're missing the biggest point. So to your first point about Kareem, our friend Lil Wayne texted me last night and said, absolutely, he's with you, that it's Kareem was the greatest college player ever. So I respect that because Lil Wayne has deep, strong sports knowledge. And when he speaks, I listen. But I will be the first to admit I was surprised by this vote all along because I thought maybe Jordan would lose in an earlier round. I don't know, head-to-head with Steph or something. I don't know, just because of Steph's popularity. No. So I was pleasantly shocked that he continued to just dominate this tournament all the way to the finals and then crush Larry Bird, because I made a joke to you a couple of shows ago. I was surprised LeBron wasn't leading this competition, and he didn't even play college basketball. But the point is that people still understand that Michael Jordan was the greatest basketball player ever, college, pro, whatever, grade school. He was the greatest basketball player ever. And was I surprised that legions of what I call blind witnesses, led by you, Shannon Sharpe, didn't rally en masse to vote for Larry Bird to defeat Michael Jordan? I thought that would happen. I thought there'd be an overflow of LeBron support for Larry Bird and that Larry Bird would eke out a win in the finals. And I wouldn't have had a huge problem with that because I told you the greatest underdog run to an NCAA finals was in 1979. Again, I was there for the national championship game in Salt Lake, but Larry Bird carried four guys from Terre Haute, basically, to a 33-0 in the NCAA finals. They did not play that well or give much of a challenge to Magic Johnson and Gregory Kelser in Michigan State, but still, they got there, and it was an unbelievable run through some very good teams, such as Arkansas, coached by Eddie Sutton, and then DePaul, Ray Meyer, and Joey Meyer's team, featuring Mark Aguirre, to get to Magic Johnson and Greg Kelser. But again, it didn't happen because people get it. And I want to thank all the people watching right now who voted for Jordan, because you get it. You understand deep down, just intrinsically, that the GOAT of all times, of anything basketball, was the original number 23, Michael Jordan. And I'm so happy today that it's driving home the point that Jordan is just better than LeBron and in every way, shape, and form. Oh, my God. And Shannon, remember, people have now at least been reminded again that Michael Jordan won a championship in college with a last-second shot, and he won his last championship in Chicago and as a pro with a last-second shot. Little push-off on Byron Russell, but in Utah, and of all places, in Salt Lake City, where the Larry Bird, Magic Johnson thing started in the beginning. But Michael beat Georgetown, a great Georgetown team featuring Patrick Ewing and Sleepy Floyd, with a jump shot, something LeBron has never really mastered, that mid-range jump shot. That one was from maybe 18 feet.
Stop it.
Swished it, 15 seconds left to beat Georgetown by 1 point. And remember, that was a do or die. That's the one I always tell you. LeBron really shies away from do or die because that was a 1 point game. You had to make that shot to win by one, and he made it. And he had to make that shot at Utah to win by a point, and he made it. And those are two of the most iconic shots in basketball history, and it just puts an exclamation point on the career of Michael Jordan. He did it, and that was as a true freshman at North Carolina. Yeah. So he announced his arrival as a true freshman in the NCAA championship game in New Orleans. I was there courtside for that game. I didn't even know who he was, really, except he was Mike Jordan at that point, and suddenly he was Michael Jordan. Right. So I'm loving the fact today that everybody gets to soak in the greatness of Michael as a college player as well as an NBA player. And I'm loving it that it is killing my debate partner, Shannon Sharpe.
It is killing me. Skip, let me ask you a question. Who do you think is the greatest college football player of all time? In your estimation, I mean, you covered. I mean, you covered sports 40 years. Who do you think is the greatest college football player of all time?
I don't know. I hate to
why
just
isn't it Tom Brady?
Something out because I need to sleep on it.
Well, I want to know. I want to know why isn't it Tom Brady?
Can I answer that?
Yes.
The answer? Okay,
yes.
I will. Because his coach at Michigan could not see the forest for the trees because he was constantly fighting for and sometimes losing the quarterback job at Michigan to two other quarterbacks. There was like musical quarterbacks going on. And yet, when I finally got to see Tom Brady in all his glory in his final college game, a bowl game against Alabama in the Orange Bowl, I watched the whole thing from start to finish. And I'm not saying I saw Tom Brady coming, but I saw a really good college quarterback who lit up Alabama that day, or night it was, for 350 yards passing. You could see it coming. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was a really good pick for New England to be able to steal him in the 6th round. Again, I did not see this coming, but it hit home that Michigan screwed this up year after year after year by not giving him the reins to the football team. Similarly, you have said this many times. What's the biggest cliche about Michael Jordan's college career is that only one man could stop Michael Jordan, and that was Dean Smith, his coach at North Carolina, the legendary Dean Smith, who allowed Michael to shoot only 11 shots a game as a freshman, and then 15 as a sophomore and 15 as a junior. That's paltry. That's unconscionable. That's almost a crime that Michael's team, because he didn't get to shoot enough, he wasn't featured enough in a share the ball system, that they got knocked out by Georgia the next year, and then they lost to Bobby Knight's Indiana. There's no huge shame in that. One step from getting to another Final Four.
Skip, I remember that was Hugh Durham, Georgia head coach, and Vern Fleming, and Georgia went all the way to the Final Four that year. I think they ended up losing to NC State, who turned
at Albuquerque.
Ended up winning.
I was there.
Yep, yep. And they lost to NC State, and we know what happened. That was '83, and we know what happened. Skip, Houston Cougars and NC State, and Lorenzo Charles dunks the ball, and they win that ball game. But Skip, if you think about when Larry averaged 30 and 13, he did that without the 3-point shot. Imagine if he'd had a 3-point shot in college, Skip. What would those numbers look like? It might have been 40 and 13 or 37, 38 and 13. But Skip, for anybody in college, and like Skip, I think they had this vote. I think ESPN did do this. And I think Herschel Walker, if I'm not mistaken, Herschel Walker was voted the greatest college football player of all time. Skip, he's not a top 15 NFL running back if you do it all time. But so you could be one and not the other. Skip, look, we're going to go back and forth. I believe it's GOAT James. You say Michael. Okay, we're going to go back and forth until the end of time. But college is not close. College is not even close. Michael Jordan, I wouldn't even put Michael in the top 5 college basketball players of all time. If you did it correctly, you get the top writers of all time that says, okay, give me your 5 greatest basketball players of all time. How you get Kareem not in that? How you get Russell? Skip, because you remember Russell, I think Russell won 54 straight games, back-to-back championships with the Dons in San Francisco.
San Francisco, yeah.
I don't, Skip, stop this. See, what you try to do, you try to paint me out to be the bad guy. Because I say Michael isn't the greatest college basketball player, that's because I'm standing for LeBron. Well, no, Skip, we saw Magic Johnson not play in the NBA and get voted to the All-Star game. So we know when fans get Skip, they vote, I like who I like, and if I can put him in, I'm put him in there. Skip, but he's not the greatest college basketball player. He was great. Not the greatest, EST. Great, not greatest.
So I would recommend for everybody watching right now, if you have a minute, and it seems like we all have a minute these days, to go to ESPN.com. I know it's our rival, but go there and read a piece that's posted right now by Jay Bayless, ESPN's college basketball expert, who obviously played at Duke for his. Yeah. Did you? Okay. Well, then you read all the great quotes because Bayless played against Michael for, was it 2 of his 3 years? I believe it was. Jay was, I think it was 2 out of 3 years. But the point was, Jay saw Michael at his college best. And the first time they played, Jay points out that Michael Jordan hit his head on the backboard. And Jay Bayless said he had never seen anybody do it. He didn't just graze the backboard. He banged his noggin on the bottom of the backboard hard because he was still rising. And it shocked Jay because he didn't think any human would be capable of doing that. And then Jay projected that Jordan into today's college or pro basketball. And he just said, basically, nobody today could have guarded that guy. And especially today with the emphasis on the three-point shot that was not emphasized in Michael's day. He didn't even have it there when he was in college, but it wasn't emphasized in his pro basketball days, that it would have opened up the game for Jordan in ways unforeseen, that he would have been even more dominating as a scorer. And I remind everybody, he won 10 NBA scoring titles to only 1 for LeBron James. And that was without any emphasis on the three-point shot by him or by other coaches or his coach. So the game was tighter played, tighter officiated. It was more of football, basketball in Michael's day. Hence the book, The Jordan Rules, by the Detroit Bad Boy Pistons, who just played football with Jordan and just tried to beat the you-know-what out of him to try to hold him down and contain him. And they were able to barely contain him as they met 3 straight times in the playoffs and overcoming as he took them to 4-game, 5-game, 5, 6, and then 7 games. Go ahead.
Skip, if you're going to say the three-point line there been an emphasis on it and there's more space, imagine Shaq with three-point shooters on his roster. Put Kareem with Steph Curry. Where the double team coming from? And he's going to go throw that sky hook one-on-one all night long. Kareem's going to average 40. Yeah, there are a lot of guys, Skip, if you put them in today's game with the way the game is spaced out and with the speed, the tempo of the game, yes. That's why you see a lot of these triple-doubles, because there's a lot more missed shots. There's a lot more shots to begin with. There's a lot more missed shots also. But, Skip, all that being true, I'm not talking about the NBA. You keep trying to take it to the NBA. I know he won 6 titles. I know he won 10 scoring titles. I know he's a 5-time MVP with 6 finals MVP. But that ain't got nothing to do with college. And in college, Kareem is the gold standard. Kareem is the Buddha, the grand poobah. He is the mythical. He's what everybody should be compared to. Skip, like you told me, Skip, you can't get better than 6-0. Well, you can't get better than 3-0. And he couldn't play as a freshman. And his freshman team beat Coach Wooden's team that actually won the title. They beat him. A freshman beat a national championship team. That's what Kareem did. He lost 2 games, 88-2, by a grand total of 4 points. 3, 3, and 3. 3 national titles, 3 most outstanding players, 3 national players of the year. You can't get any better than that. Skip, you told me Michael Jordan was perfect. Well, he wasn't perfect in college, because remember, Indiana knocked him out his last year. Beat him down.
Did not Kareem Abdul-Jabbar go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, hold on. But see, I know what you're going to go to. You're talking about when he played with these other players. Well, on the team that won the national championship, it was James Worthy, Jimmy Black, Sam Perkins, Michael Jordan, and Matt Doherty. And the year he got beat, Brad Doherty was the #1 overall pick of the Cleveland Cavaliers, Kenny Smith, and Sam Perkins, and Michael Jordan, and they got the brakes beat off them. Now, which one of those guys did not go in the first round, Skip? Because Brad Doherty was #1 overall, and Michael Jordan was #3 overall. And I forget where Kenny Smith went. If I'm not mistaken, Kenny Smith was a top pick also. So stop this notion that, because Kareem played with great players, that's why. Michael Jordan played with other great players also.
Okay, I hear you. But Kareem, who was then Lou Alcindor, as we know, got to play for the greatest college coach ever, who utilized Kareem's talents in ways that Dean Smith did not utilize Michael Jordan's talents. And I'm going to say it again. College basketball is more of a guard-driven game. And Kareem was blessed his sophomore and junior years to have the two best guards in all of college basketball in Lucius Allen and Mike Warren. Lucius Allen was the 3rd overall pick in the draft. Mike Warren would have been a higher draft pick, but he wanted to become an actor. And thanks to Hill Street Blues, he became he was a fine actor for a long time. So the point was that not only did he have the two best guards, but then by Kareem's junior year, as the recruits just poured in, he had Sidney Wicks and Curtis Rowe, two studs who were going to become. Sidney Wicks became a 4-time All-Star. It was just supreme talent that I think was even a little beyond Michael's talent in the end, because he did have John Wooden pulling all the strings and the genius of John Wooden around him. But I'm taking nothing away. I'm just saying that I think Michael Jordan got shackled by Dean Smith, and it was so bad that none of us could see Michael coming the way we should have seen him coming. And the point was, he was drafted 3rd overall. And you can't argue Hakeem to Houston, although now in hindsight you can. But Sam Bowie to Portland. And again, I told you the story. Bobby Knight recommended to Portland, you better take Michael Jordan. And the answer was, well, we need a center. Well, play Michael at center, said Bobby Knight. And I would have agreed with that sentiment. But so it's just, you couldn't quite see Michael in college. But look, Shannon, what if we just, the reason this whole thing irks me, drives me nuts, is that let's forget about college. That's just the cherry on top. But I still have to sit on a daily basis when we have real basketball games being played and watch you come in every other day wearing a GOAT mask, proclaiming that LeBron James is the GOAT, when it's just laughable. It's not even close. Even if we just do NBA career to career, you can't argue with 6 championships and 6 finals MVPs. You can't argue with 10 scoring titles to 1 and 5 MVPs to 4 and 3 steals titles to 0. And we're talking about the clutchest, mentally toughest player who ever walked this planet, Michael Jordan. And LeBron has had so many epic failures in his career when he wasn't the mentally toughest player. In fact, I can make the case he's been the mentally weakest superstar in key moments, such as the 2011 finals, the 2014 finals, various playoff series against Boston, the last game, the last series that he was the first to go around with the Cleveland Cavaliers when his owner accused him of quitting. Then against the Magic after he hits the shot heard around the world. It's just one epic failure after another that Michael Jordan never had.
But yes, he did, Skip. You keep saying, well, LeBron failed against the Celtics. Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, Rajon Rondo. The moment the playing fields were level, what happened? He beat Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce so bad, they wanted to run it back. They went to Brooklyn and teamed up with Joe Johnson and Darren Williams, and they bust that up and put the Nets in purgatory, put them in hell because they gave up all those first-round picks to get them, and LeBron broke it up after a year. So stop this notion, Skip Bayless. And all I know is that you say he's unclutched and he's mentally weak. All I know is he got more game-winning shots than Michael Jordan. And you need to explain that for a guy that's so fragile mentally and psychologically. How could he have more game-winning shots than Mike?
How do you explain that he has consistently run from the late game, close game free throw line, and that statistically he is the worst high-volume late game free throw shooter in the history of this league? That Achilles heel alone disqualifies him from the GOAT race. And we're going to talk about LeBron's free throws in just a moment, but I'm sorry. It just disqualifies him. He is, by superstar standards, he's a horrible free throw shooter. You can't defend it. It's just game over, even if we just do free throws in pro basketball versus pro basketball. Michael Jordan was an 85% free throw shooter. LeBron's way down at 74%. It's shameful for a guy of his caliber.
Hey, Skip, I would skip. You can't have everything. Yes, I would like for LeBron to be able to shoot the three with the consistency and the accuracy of Steph. Yes, I would like for him to be able to shoot the free throws like Mark Price. But Skip, you can't have everything. Imagine if Shaq could shoot free throws and develop the 15-foot jump shot and was still as dominant as he was in the post. Skip, you can't have everything. You want the guy to have everything?
They're called free throws for a reason. And LeBron James is the point guard. As a point guard, you have to make your free throws. He's not 7 feet, 2 inches tall like Kareem.
We don't like free throws.
Kareem was a 72%. Oh, come on. Stop it.
We don't like free throws.
Okay.
We don't like free throws. We play for everything.
I've had enough of this.
No mercy.
The Athletic has chosen the best player ever to wear each number in the National Football League from 00 all the way up to 99. And of note, my man Shannon Sharpe at least was given honorable mention on number 84, which obviously was won by Randy Moss. But still, that's pretty great for my man Shannon Sharpe. He was honorable mention to Randy Moss. Pretty great. Way to go, Shannon Sharpe. But beyond that, the number that caught my eye was number 81, because the player chosen by The Athletic as the best ever to wear number 81 was Terrell Owens, T.O., as I always called him, Team Obliterator. Shannon Sharpe, do you agree that Terrell Owens was the best ever to wear 81?
Yeah. T.O., for me, T.O. is the second greatest receiver to ever play in the NFL. Skip, if you look at him through their first 9 years, now remembering Calvin Johnson, Megatron, only played 9 seasons. And through their 9 seasons, Skip, they're very familiar. T.O. went to 5 Pro Bowls. Megatron went to 6. T.O. had 4 first-team All-Pros, 3. And everything is really, really similar. They averaged, T.O. averaged 10 touchdowns. Megatron averaged 9. But then, Skip, guess what? T.O. played another 6 years, over 400 catches, over 6,000 yards, 58 touchdowns, first-team All-Pro. Skip, I mean, when you factor in the longevity and you factor in the productivity, see, Skip, it's just, for me, it's just not good enough that you play a long time. Because, Skip, if I collect cans for a number of years, I will have a bunch of cans. T.O. was productive. T.O. went to Buffalo. He was better than Peerless Price. He went to Cincinnati. Ocho Cinco was still there. He was their best receiver. He went to Dallas. He was their best receiver. Ted Hendricks, and Deion Sanders are the only 3 men that have been first-team All-Pro for 3 different teams. I don't really know. Look, and Megatron had an unbelievable career, but T.O. was the best 81, period.
This just makes me sick at my stomach. I'm sorry. And let me say before I unleash on this one, we've had Terrell on the show many times. I've had him on TV with me many, many times. I like him. I honestly, from my heart, from my soul, I like the guy. I enjoy having him on the show. We had him on at the Super Bowl, and he wasn't good. He was great. And I always look forward to having him on the show because we spar a little bit. He doesn't like me, and I get it. But I think he kind of respects me, and I really respect him because he was a great football player, and he played with rage and with high passion. I get that. I also was there in San Francisco when he wrecked that 49ers team, and I'm sorry he just did. And then I was close to so many players when I was working at ESPN, ex-Eagles, who've just said he wrecked us, teams that should have won 2 or 3 Super Bowls. And then I was very close to several Dallas Cowboys who said he turned us upside down under Bill Parcells in Dallas. I don't know. And even that, I'll just forget about it's not even off the field. It's in the locker room and in the huddle and on the sidelines. But I'll forget about all that, Shannon. Look, Calvin Johnson was a freak of a beast of a rare player. We'd never seen anything like it. He was 6'5", 240 pounds, and he ran 4.35 at the combine. What? It's unheard of. It's impossible. Yeah. He could jump. He could catch. He was a package unlike anything Terrell ever dreamed of. What was Terrell, a third-round pick? Calvin was the second overall pick, and you could have made a case he should have been the first overall pick. And he goes to a bad team in Detroit, a team that pretty quickly was going to go 0-16, and he got stuck there. And his spirit died in Detroit. And you're right, he went Barry Sanders, and he quit early. He quit when he was 30 years of age over contract issues. It was almost like what Jim Brown did with the Cleveland Browns and Barry Sanders.
Art Modell.
Barry, there you go. And Barry just got sick of losing in a team that wouldn't do enough to surround him with the kind of players they needed to go places in the playoffs. And it was the same with Megatron. But he had a nickname, Megatron, for a reason, because nobody had ever seen anything like him. We used to have Nate Burleson, now on NFL Network and obviously on CBS. But Nate Burleson used to come to Bristol, Connecticut, where I was with First Take and ESPN. And occasionally we'd go to dinner. I think Shannon's been with me to Cava before. There's like the only place to go in Bristol, Connecticut. And every dinner I had with Nate Burleson, all I heard about were Megatron legendary stories, practice stories, that he was just unguardable. And you look at the numbers of what he did, Shannon, he still holds the single season receiving record for yards, almost 2,000 yards. He still holds the single season record for 100-yard games with 11. And over his 9 seasons, he led the NFL in receiving yards and touchdowns. And Terrell was putting up big numbers too. I get that. But he wasn't doing it the way this guy was doing it. And I'll never forget October 27th of 2013. You might not remember this game, but I do, because it was against my Cowboys at Detroit. Oh, Lord have mercy. He caught 14 balls for 329 yards. That seems almost like inconceivable that 14 would equal 329. And remember, it should have been the record, but I don't know how Flipper Anderson did this, but back in 1988, 89, I think it was, with the Rams, Flipper caught.
It was 89 on Sunday
336 yards. Yeah, 336. So 329 for Calvin against my Cowboys. And then he got to play in 2 playoff games. And do you remember the one where they got blown out in New Orleans? That's when Drew Brees and company were just riding high. And in that game, Calvin caught 12 for 211 in a playoff game. And then against my Cowboys, in the game that my Cowboys, I'll be the first to admit, stole it. It was a robbery. Calvin, they were triple teaming him in that game, and he still caught 5 for 85, which is 17 a catch. I mean, he was something so spectacular that he had a nickname, Megatron. And I'm sorry, when I think of 81, I think of Terrell for right and wrong reasons, but I think of Calvin as the essence of 81, like the beast that we'd never seen before at receiver. I think he was the most gifted receiver ever. You can have Jerry Rice or Michael Irvin or, Terrell, whoever else you want to throw in there. It's just 81 should belong to Calvin Johnson. He was just better than Terrell, but you're right. He didn't go from San Francisco to Philly to Dallas to Buffalo to Cincinnati to Seattle. He didn't keep doing that. He quit when he was 30, and I don't think he should be penalized for that.
That's his nickname. T.O., the most fun, the most entertaining receiver to ever play the game. Skip, look, And I think the thing what hurt T.O. is that because some of the things that you mentioned, look, there's always going to be a segment of a locker room that likes you. There's going to be a segment that don't like you. But around the league, Skip, I think T.O. got punished sometimes because of the way he was, and he didn't get voted to Pro Bowls, and he didn't become an All-Pro because of some of the reasons that you mentioned. But Skip, you can't argue those numbers. Not only did he play an extended period of time, he was productive throughout the entirety of his career, and that's all you can ask for. He was on pace to have another 1,000-yard season, have another double-digit touchdown season before he tore his knee up, I think the last 2 of the last 3 games in Cincinnati, when he was clearly their best receiver, and they had Ocho Cinco still there. So for me, Skip, because of what he was able to do and the length of time in which he's able to do it, there's no, Skip, no, we'll probably never see another guy that big, that fast, that strong, with that kind of ability, play that position. Normally guys that play that have that kind of freaky athleticism, Skip, the defensive linemen. Skip, that's what we see. We see defensive linemen, we see tight ends that play that position, not wide receivers. Normally we see Noah Fant. Skip, he ran that fast, jumped like that. But he's a tight end. Megatron played outside the numbers. So yes, it's freaky to see someone with that kind of size, that kind of speed, that kind of ability. But for me, T.O., and he did, think about this, Skip. In his first 3 years, he played second fiddle to Jerry Rice. So got a head start on him. Just imagine. And they got rid of Jerry so T.O. could shine. Let that sink in for just a second. They got rid of T.O., they got rid of Jerry so T.O. could shine because they knew what he was in San Francisco.
Well, let this sink in for a second. I was there the day that Terrell Owens set the NFL record for catches in a single game at Candlestick Park, and it was Jerry Rice Day. That day at Candlestick, and the Chicago Bears were visiting, and I was up in the press box, and the Bears said, we're going to triple cover Jerry Rice and barely cover Terrell Owens. And Jeff Garcia was smart enough to say, I'll keep throwing it over to number 81. But that game alone is not any reason for Terrell Owens to be voted the all-time wearer of number 81. I'm sorry. I'm happy for Terrell that he got in the Hall of Fame on his 3rd try, even though I would not have voted for him. But for him, for his sake, I'm happy. And again, from my heart, I look forward to the next time Terrell visits us on Undisputed when we're back in studio. But I'm sorry, I just can't bear the thought of Terrell being the bearer of number 81 all time. But enough of that, because we've got to get back to... Yeah, go ahead.
I know. Megatron got honorable mention, right?
But he was clearly a very close second. And you know what? You made the point. Maybe Terrell ekes out the win because he was so entertaining, because of all of his dances and all of his shenanigans and shtick that he did. And it was all great. I loved the Sharpe out of the sock. I was there that night covering that game in Seattle when he ran to the box at the end of the end zone and from his agent got the Sharpe to sign the football and put it in his sock. We know all that, the pom-poms, and it was one thing after another. I covered that team. But despite all that, not Megatron.
No mercy.
In the last few games before this forced layoff, and I certainly hope he's working on his free throw shooting as we speak, but obviously his Achilles heel has always been his free throw shooting, but Jason Kidd, Lakers assistant coach now, had this to say. He's gone back more closer to his high school free throws, and he's shooting over 80% since he's done that. He's always searching to get better and trying to find the way to fix something. And that was probably the one thing in his game that he needed to work on. I could second that emotion. So, Shannon Sharpe, will LeBron's new style of free throw shooting be a blip or a trend in his improvement?
Skip, of course, I believe. I mean, you see, as Jason mentioned, that since he's gone back to closely shooting like he did in high school, he's up to 80%. Skip, that's what great players do. You work on an aspect of your game that you feel you need weak. You're only as strong as the weakest link in your game. So what does he feel that he needs the most work on? His free throw percentage. I know he's working out. I know he's putting time in the weight room, doing his cardio. But I can assure you he's working on his free throw percentage. He's working on his free throws. And that's what gets Skip. That's what, if you're a baseball player, if guys get in a slump, they do something different to try to get out of that slump. They don't still do the same thing, do they? You try to improve. So he's trying to improve, and rightfully so. So no, I am not surprised that he's working on his game. I'm not surprised that he's starting to see the fruit of his labor, because that's what great players do. They find something that they need to work on, they work on it, they get it fixed, and then they patch up that. So I expect to see him shoot probably like 82, 83% come playoff time on the way to winning a title. That's what I do see. You see that too? Good. Glad we could see the same thing.
Yeah. I don't see that. And I'm going to quote the great LeBron James moments after he won his first ring against the baby Oklahoma City Thunder. He said on national TV live, "It's about damn time." Well, it's about damn time, LeBron, that you improve your free throw shooting in year 17. We're at the end of year 17, and it took this long for you to get on any kind of a hot streak. Look, Shannon, I'm going to give your man this. I have never, ever, in all my years of covering and watching basketball, seen a man change his free throw shooting routine as often as LeBron changes his. It's one thing after another, almost on a weekly or at least monthly basis. And at least he's desperate enough to try this, try that, try this, try that. ESPN counted in the 16-17 season that LeBron changed his routine. They had all the videos up of each form. He changed it 18 times. They had 18 videos of different routines he used in 16-17. Well, it's extraordinary because after a while, it's like the golf swing. You can go to 18 different teachers and they'll have 18 different ideas about how to change your swing. But all that really matters in the golf swing is what's the club doing at impact with the golf ball. All that matters with the free throw shooting is what's happening right there as you release the basketball. Where is it heading? Is it spinning this way, the way it should spin? What's your touch? What's your arc? What is your direction? Can you repeat that stroke under pressure? LeBron went to some bizarre new form, and I can't believe it's his high school form. In those, remember, we saw in the last 3 games, there were the 2 on Friday night and then Sunday against the Bucks and then the Clippers. He went 24 of 29 from the free throw line in those games, and that's what Jason Kidd is talking about. That was sensational. I mean, it wasn't 29 of 29 like we see James Harden often do.
See, there you go.
Well, okay, but by LeBron standards, 24 of 29 was extraordinary. But what was he doing? I told you it wouldn't last because LeBron was coming to a dead stop in the set position and going almost catatonic. He was turning into the frozen one at the free throw line, waiting. And I'm screaming at my TV, LeBron, just shoot it. Just let it go. Just release it. You can't shoot free throws like that. The great free throw shooters have a fairly quick routine that creates momentum into the shot, where it's 1, 2, 3, shoot. And you do the same thing in the same rhythm, at the same pace every time, and it becomes automatic. 1, 2, 3, shoot it. And in this case, if you come to a dead stop and you're frozen, you're catatonic, LeBron, shoot it, just shoot it. It's not going to be able to sustain because you're going to think about it too much. The thoughts are going to creep into your psyche. The demons are going to take over, and you're going to start missing. So after 24 of 29, he comes back against Brooklyn at home in the final game that we got to see, a game they lost. and he went 1 for 5. And in the second half of a game they lost by a couple of points, he went 1 for 4. Okay, there's a better way to do this. And it actually haunts me that LeBron James in his career has been such a poor free throw shooter by his standards. Because if you just look at him, all the high volume shooters, think about this, that they're look at this. We got 19 players with 390 or more free throw attempts this season. 19 players, high volume free throw shooters. LeBron is 15th on that list. That's not greatness, because the 4 players that are below him are Bam and Montrez and Giannis and Rudy Gobert. Well, come on, LeBron, you got to be better than that. You're the point guard for the Lakers. You got to be able to make free throws at an 80% clip, and he's a career 74%. He's also shot the 4th most free throws, if I combine regular and playoffs, the 4th most in NBA history, and you've only made 74%. Well, Kareem, the guy you say is the greatest college player ever, as a pro, Kareem at 7 feet 2 inches tall, where his hands are almost too big to shoot free throws, he made 72% to LeBron's 74%. And then, Shannon, if we look at just a collection of the greatest players, let's do Michael Jordan. He was 84%. Larry Bird was 89. Magic, 85. Kobe, 84. Steph, obviously, is all-time great at 91. Kevin Durant's 88. Dirk was 88. James Harden's at 86, but he's the highest volume free throw shooter we've ever seen. And LeBron is still down at 74. The gap in percentage of those 10 percentage points is so huge. You're leaving thousands of points on the table. And it perplexes me that LeBron can be that great and that bad at free throw shooting. I don't know. How do you explain that? You've never been able to.
I don't. And I've never professed that LeBron is a great free throw shooter. He'll tell you he's not a great free throw shooter. With all those points he's left on the table, guess what? He's still the 3rd leading scorer. And he still trails Michael Jordan in field goal attempts. So with all the points that Michael have accumulated in front of him, like you said, they're free. And all the more field goal attempts that Michael has attempted more than LeBron, we passed him. He in the dust. We 3rd, about to go to 2nd in a year and a half, tops. And then in 3 years, we'll be the all-time leading scorer in NBA history. We're shooting 74% from the free throw line. Ta-da!
Okay. So your man has tried everything from, remember, for a while he was trying kissing each wrist for his mom and his wife. Remember, He tried blowing on his hand. I'm not sure what that does, but maybe blow some luck into his hand. He tried the Jerry Stackhouse, the deep knee bends where you bend your knees almost where your knees are touching the hardwood. I don't know. It's always something with him. And my concluding point is that this hurts him at the end of games, because if he trusted himself at the free throw line, he is simply the greatest attacker of the basket we have ever seen. There's never been a freight train like LeBron at 6'9", 260, ambidextrous, left to right. He's better going left, attacking the basket, and just powering people, just bullying people at the rim. Well, the later you get in a close, tight game, the more he runs from the free throw line, because he's afraid to go shoot the 2 free throws in a clutch situation because he's not sure. Well, I can't blame him or condemn him for that. So he always opts for the deep 3, because nobody can say that was a really hard, high degree of difficulty shot. And if he trusted himself at the free throw line, he'd be invincible as a closer, because he'd just keep taking you to the basket and to the free throw line. But instead, he is simply the worst late game, close game superstar free throw shooter we have ever seen. So I even look at his 4th quarter shooting. If you just look at all the shots taken, the fourth quarter free throws taken since 1996, 71 have taken 1,000 plus in the 4th quarter or overtime. And LeBron is 53rd of 71 in fourth quarter made free throws. It's just, it gets worse as you progress in the game. So Shannon, I would hope that wherever LeBron is during this layoff right now, he's probably watching Undisputed right now because I know he hangs on our every word. But later today, he should be out in the backyard with his kids shooting 1,000 free throws with a new routine that goes 1, 2, 3, shoot. 1, 2, 3, shoot.
No.
I'm sorry.
First of all, Skip, baby.
You gotta fix that.
You keep telling me LeBron doesn't trust himself. He trusts himself. He just doesn't trust the guys with the whistles because sometimes they'll call a foul and sometimes they won't. So what we do, we take it out of their hand. We drop that 40-foot three on you, and there's nothing the officials or you can say about that.
No mercy.
Our friend LeVar Ball on the Pardon My Take podcast was asked if in his prime he could have beaten Zion Williamson in a one-on-one game. And LeVar answered, and forgive me, I'm not going to try to do LeVar's voice here, but LeVar answered, "Stop it. I'll murder that boy. He too small. He too slow. I'm way too fast for that boy. He's a youngster, man. My prime time, I would kill him. I'm way too strong and fast." Shannon Sharpe, what is your response to LeVar's response?
Skip, LeVar could not beat Zion in his prime with Amazon Prime or any other type of prime. Even prime time couldn't help LeVar Ball beat Zion Williamson. Skip, nobody believed that he could do what he said. First, he could beat Jordan. Then he could beat this one, and he could beat that one. At some point in time, you know what Alonzo teammates are saying? Man, so your daddy crazy, man. Man, your daddy crazy. He think he can beat Zion. Nobody's taking him serious, Skip. You cannot average 2 points a game in your 1 year at Washington State and then think you're going to beat a generational talent that is Zion Williamson or any other player. Skip, does he realize? This is why LeVar made the Jets, because Skip, I think the best football player, the best basketball player that became an NFL player is Antonio Gates. Antonio Gates at Kent State led Kent State to the Elite Eight. When I say he led, he was their best player, averaged 20 points a game. I think if I'm not mistaken, Skip, he was 20-8. So he was a legit player. He just realized, man, I'm too small. Yep. Skip, LeVar Ball is not beating those. First of all, Zion Williamson is not slow. I don't know if he noticed it. Nobody has a first, second step, jump, quickness that he's unmatched in that area. And I don't know if he realized it. Zion like 280, 290 himself. So he ain't too small and he ain't too slow. LeVar, you need to stop this. Man, you out your mind. You couldn't beat ever in your life. You couldn't even dream of beating Zion Williamson one-on-one.
Okay. I cannot tell you how much I hope you're right that the other Pelicans will just dismiss this as crazy LeVar talk, as just shtick, yes, as just LeVar being LeVar. But somehow this one hit me the wrong way. Somehow this one made me angry and made me sick because I fear that Zion himself will try to laugh it off. But Shannon, you know and I know that every once in a while, you're a teammate of that guy's, that Lonzo whose father said this. And if
right,
your teammate's father said that you're too small and too slow, then in the very back of Zion's mind, he might start thinking, does Lonzo think I'm too small and too slow? Is he really not my friend and my soulmate connection that I thought he was? And it could threaten to wreck the chemistry long-term between Zion and Lonzo. And I don't know if people have noticed, but over those last 5 games before this forced layoff, Zion, and Lonzo were becoming a thing, as in a Stockton to Malone kind of thing that's going to be historically great. I'm talking about fast break passes, lob passes for spectacular dunks, beautiful passes, because Lonzo is not a good passer. He's a great passer. And over those last 5 games, ironically, Lonzo played the best basketball of his professional life. He's still only 22 years of age, obviously 23. I think he's 20, well, whatever, 23 years of age. And Zion is obviously, 19 years of age? 19. So all of a sudden, Lonzo, over the last 5 games, averaged 21, 8, and 8. He was shooting 51% over the last 5 games from the three-point line because he fixed his three-point shot, his deep shot from over here to over here. And I loved it because it was hard, because he had the demons were stuck in his psyche too. And as LeVar said, well, he started doing it in AAU ball, and I just decided to let him do it because it was working, and it worked at UCLA from over here. But it won't work long term. It's sort of like LeBron's free throw shooting. But Lonzo fixed it. And all of a sudden, here comes LeVar out of left field, putting his shtick and his ego above his son's ability to succeed in his second home in New Orleans. And you know what I feel about Lonzo? I believe he can be a very special basketball player, and I think we've seen glimpses and flashes of that. But LeVar ruined that kid in Los Angeles. Again, their hometown. But Lonzo went number 2 to the Lakers, drafted by the great Magic Johnson, who blessed him as someday his jersey, his number 2, will hang up in the rafters here. Wow. That's a lot to live up to, especially when your father is painting the biggest target on your back that any kid coming into this league has ever had painted on his back, because his father is saying he's already better than Steph Curry. He's this, he's that. And remember what happened on opening night. Patrick Beverley destroyed Lonzo Ball and then pointed up in the stands at LeVar and said, "That's for you, Pops." Okay. You can't do it, LeVar. I know it puts you on the international map. I know it puts Ball in the family at the top of the ratings. I know it makes LeVar a household name, but it's always at the expense of Lonzo's ability to succeed in this league. And you can't take a shot at his new running mate, his new partner, his new basketball soulmate. You can't say he's too small and he's too slow, because it might just stick in the psyche and the craw of Zion going forward and create a little tiny rift between these two, a little rift that'll become a bigger one over time if anything starts to go wrong. I don't know. I hope you're right. I hope they just laugh it off, Shannon. I'm just not sure that's a laugh it off comment. That's a shot.
What if Zion were to pull a Michael Jordan? He sees, let's just say LeVar comes to practice one day, and he says, "Hey, LeVar, bring your ass." hey, don't worry, all that talking you was doing, all that gum bumping. Come on, let's see what you're putting down. And he beat the brakes off LeVar. Because you tell the story how Michael Jordan came into the gym after he had retired and told Tim Floyd, pointed at the guy, said, "Hey, I need to see you down here."
Yeah. I believe it was Corey Benjamin that they had drafted in the first round, who had said on draft night, "I'm sorry Michael retired because I could have taken him one-on-one." And then I happened to be at a practice the next year when Michael showed up unannounced in his sweats and pointed to Tim Floyd and said, "Coach," didn't even know Tim Floyd, they never met before. "Coach, would you allow me to play that guy one-on-one right now at the end of practice?" And Tim said, "Sure." And you know the rest of the story. The poor kid got destroyed. Unfortunately here, LeVar was talking about when he was in his prime, back in his, early 20s.
Whatever. I want to see.
Yeah, I do too.
I want to see now.
I just want LeVar to leave Lonzo alone. Please leave him alone, LeVar. No mercy. Staffs from The Athletic around the country have been picking Mount Rushmores for each of their cities, performers in sports in the history of each of their cities. And the 4 chosen for Los Angeles caught my eye, not because Shannon and I live in Los Angeles now, here working for Fox Sports 1, but just because of who didn't make the 4 chosen on Mount Rushmore for the City of Angels. The 4 chosen: Magic, Jackie Robinson, Serena, and Kobe. Not chosen were Tiger Woods, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Sandy Koufax, and I could go on, but I won't, because Shannon Sharpe, you got any issues with the 4 that were chosen by The Athletic for the City of Los Angeles?
Yeah, I do, Skip. Obviously, the 2 easiest ones for me, Skip, was Tiger and Serena. Those are the 2 easiest ones for me. I mean, those are no-brainer. You're talking about the greatest tennis player. I can make a case. Serena is the greatest tennis player. Forget female. We know she's the greatest female tennis player. And Tiger, he's the greatest golfer. So they have to be there. Skip, where I kind of I didn't really know, did he have to be born in L.A. or yada, 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 whatever. But I went with Coach Wooden on my Mount Rushmore. And I also went with Kobe. Now, I would have Kareem, and I get what Kareem played 4 years at UCLA. Well, 3 years, they could only play. But he did spend, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 6 years in Milwaukee. So I kind of dinged him for that. But my next 4, Skip, would have been Jackie Robinson, Sandy Koufax, Kareem, and Magic. Because what people don't realize is that Jackie Robinson's career took place in Brooklyn, not in L.A. So that's where I went. I went Serena, Coach Wooden, Kobe, Tiger.
Okay. There's so many issues here. I don't know where to start, but remember, Jackie Robinson played football and baseball here at UCLA, just up the road from us here right now. And he wasn't just good.
And he ran track.
He was great in both sports. And he ran track. But his primary sports were football and baseball. And obviously, just on historical trailblazing, Jackie Robinson deserves to be on somebody's list, because UCLA's baseball stadium, where I went just 3 weeks ago, it's named Jackie Robinson, Stadium. So
it is.
I get that, and yet I can't put him on my Mount Rushmore because I'm just doing your ability to dominate your sport. And again, Jackie Robinson was a very good baseball player, but he wasn't an all-time transcendent, dominant baseball player. He just broke the color barrier. No. That's enough said.
Right.
Okay, so my 4 are Magic, Tiger, Serena, and Sandy Koufax. And let me start at the bottom, because, Shannon, I don't know if you remember, and forgive me for going too old school here, going 1960s. Sandy Koufax was simply the greatest pitcher in the history of baseball. He dominated, certainly for 5 straight years, just the way Tiger dominated golf for 3 and Serena has dominated tennis seemingly forever. But Sandy Koufax was transcendent, because for 5 straight years, he led the National League in earned run average. And in 4 of those years, he led it in strikeouts. And his record in those 5 years was start off pretty mediocre at 14-7. Then he goes 25-5, 24-5, 26-8, and 27-8. Nobody had ever seen anything like Sandy Koufax, who led the Dodgers to 4 World Series, in which his ERA was 0.95, and in which, in one of the 4 series, they won 3, he pitched a complete game shutout in Game 7 at Minnesota against the Twins. He was just extraordinary, and I can't leave him off. So let's look at Kobe, dearly departed Kobe. We still haven't recovered from the tragic loss of Kobe Bryant. But when I'm talking about Mount Rushmore, if I want to talk about tragic loss, he's on my Mount Rushmore. But did Kobe dominate his sport? He was all-time great, but there are other great players. I can't say that Kobe owned basketball all those years, but Magic, to me, did own basketball. And the reason I go Magic over Kareem is, remember, Shannon, The 4 years Kareem was a Laker before Magic came out of Michigan State, they weren't that good. The first year Kareem was here, and he'd won a championship with Oscar, obviously, in Milwaukee, but they went 40-42 and missed the playoffs. And the next year, they got swept in the conference finals. And then they lost in the first round, and then they lost in the conference semifinals in 5 games. They needed Magic. They needed his charisma. They needed his leadership, his magnetism, his mere nickname of Magic, the greatest nickname in the history of sports, to take it up to Showtime levels. So to me, in all-time greatness, in transcendence, it was Magic slightly over Kobe and slightly over Kareem. So I go Magic, and I give you Tiger and Serena because they dominated their sport, and so did Sandy Koufax. And I got it on John Wooden. He was the greatest, but he wasn't a player. Yes. He was a coach. So I, so I can't go coach. It's close, and you make a good case, but I just can't quite get there. Your response to all my thoughts.
Skip, for me, is that I won't fight you on. I mean, and I went because my original list, I had Magic and Kobe and Serena and Tiger, but then I was like, hold on, Coach Wooden won 10 national titles in 12 years. That's never ever going to be done again. Not in basketball or football, Skip. You know what I'm saying? Now, soccer, Anson, and Dorrance, what he did at UNC in soccer, okay, we get that. But in a major North American sport, football, basketball, that's not going to happen again. So that's why, and I get it, Skip. Like I said, if I'd have knew the criteria, you're not going to be able to put coaches, I probably would have taken him off. And I agree with you, Sandy Koufax was spectacular. And Skip, remember, he was so devout in his faith, he didn't pitch on Sundays. Remember, he missed
a World Series game for Yom Kippur.
Correct.
It was a World Series game against the White Sox. It fell on Yom Kippur, and he just said, "I'm sorry, I don't pitch on Yom Kippur," and he missed some other games for Jewish holidays. So no, I'm good. I'm great. I get it. And I'm not even sure it's. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I want to hear you speak on Sandy Koufax. Go ahead.
Okay, but I'm not even sure there's criteria that says you can't have John Wooden. I hadn't thought about a coach. It's just that he was a coach as compared to a player. So I say, okay, I'll go with the player. And yet, I think we agree. The bottom line is Los Angeles has been blessed over the years with greatness everywhere. It's just, and again, some of these people didn't grow up in L.A. Tiger and Serena did grow up in L.A., but obviously Magic didn't and Koufax didn't. The Koufax from Brooklyn and Magic from East Lansing.
Kobe didn't either.
And Kobe did not either. But still.
But if you think about it, Magic and Kobe spent more years in L.A. than away from L.A. because once they came here, they never left.
They did.
So Magic has been here since 79. So and Magic is what, 50, probably 58, 59 years of age, maybe almost 60. But he spent the bulk of his career in L.A. Same thing with Kobe. I won't fight you, or if you want to take Kobe off and put Magic on. But the two people that must be on there is Tiger Woods and Serena Williams.
No mercy.
Let's take it home. Fox Bet has the over-under on Tom Brady interceptions next year in Tampa at 10.5, 10.5. So Shannon Sharpe, predict Tom Brady's touchdown passes and interceptions next season.
Well, Skip, the thing is, what people don't realize is that Bruce Arians, Skip, when he's been the head coach of the offensive coordinator, his quarterback normally finished in the top 10 in interceptions. Peyton Manning led the league in interceptions. Jameis Winston, we know, led the league in interceptions. Carson Palmer 1 year was number 2. Andrew Luck was number 2. The only guy that didn't have a high interception rate was one Ben Roethlisberger, but they were a Jerome Bettis, Willie Parker running team. So, Skip, you know what? I'm going to be generous. I like you, and I don't want to end on a bad note. I'm going to say it'll be 29-14. 29 touchdowns, 14 INTs.
Only 29 touchdown passes for the GOAT?
What you mean only 29?
Offense? Are you kidding me? 29? Okay, So he had 24 touchdowns last year to 8 interceptions. But in 2007 with Randy Moss, he had 50 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. So Lamar Jackson obviously led the NFL last year in touchdown passes at 36. Jameis had 33. Okay. So I say if you put Tom Brady in this offense with Bruce Arians, Tom Moore supervising, and you give him those weapons, all 4 of them better than any weapon he had last year in New England, I say he throws 40 touchdown passes, but I'll give you higher interceptions. Over under is 10.5. I'll go to 11. So I'm going to go 40 touchdown passes, leading the NFL easily next year for Tom Brady to only 11 interceptions. Your response?
So in the process of him leading the league, did Patrick Mahomes retire? Because that's the only way Brady's ever going to lead the NFL in touchdowns again, which is not going to happen. But I can assure you, if he throws 30 interceptions, he'll throw more than 15. If he throws 30 touchdowns, he will throw more than 15 interceptions. Because, Skip, that offense is too high risk for the reward to be that low. So he's going to throw 15 or more interceptions with 30 or more touchdowns.
Tom Brady will throw more touchdown passes next year than Patrick Mahomes. You can book that.
5 cases. 5 cases.
5 cases? I'll go 3 just to be nice to you.
That would be nice. Okay.
That's enough. We'll pick this up tomorrow because, unfortunately, we are out of time, and I had so much more to say. I want to thank Michael Vader for being so technically supportive of me here up in my loft in my house. And I want to thank Ernestine and Hazel for letting me use their house. Remember, we're on 10 to noon tomorrow here on Fox Sports 1. Please stay safe. And please, above all, stay home.
No mercy.